Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I'm Anna and today I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks to networking online and in person. Also some thoughts on how things might change post-pandemic and how to prepare for those changes. Hit it. So you want to get good at networking. What's your end goal and objective? Are you aiming to meet someone in particular or gain general connections? With most things on my channel, I will tell you to be genuine and kind, but it can also be useful to be strategic when networking. It can make your life a lot easier and be a much more efficient use of your time. Make sure you stay to the end where I'll give you a list of do's and don'ts to jot down for your networking endeavors in the future. Okay, let's get into it. So in the past, you might have started with in-person networking at a conference or just someone you might have met on the street. But nowadays, things have moved much more online, especially because of the pandemic. So where you begin kind of depends on your situation. You can go into any interaction with an idea of what you want to get out of it in mind, but rather than think about what you might get out of it, think about how you can help someone else achieve their goals and how you could be invaluable to them. And through it, you could get a customer or gain some additional valuable experience. When it comes to networking, I would say being flexible is really important, whether it's from a day-to-day messaging online or if you can meet someone for a coffee. For me, I really just like to meet new people and hear about their stories and their dreams, and then if there's anything that I can do to encourage them to go for something that might have been too afraid to do or just hadn't had enough experience for, I'd say go for it. And sometimes that's where my networking skills go the best, because I just like to meet people, talk to them, and see if I can help. Think about your time on this earth. Who will remember you and why? Who have you actually helped? Have you changed anyone's lives for the better? If you can go into networking with that kind of mindset, then the kind of connections you will get will be unbelievable, lifelong lasting, and really, really valuable to both of you. Also, warning about meeting your heroes or role models. If that opportunity does ever come up, it might not be what you expect, but don't let that change the way that you view them. It could just be that they're having a bad day. We're only human, and so are they. And if you do end up meeting your heroes, don't feel bad if it doesn't go the way you want. But it's still a really amazing experience, and you should value it. And heroes aside, in most cases, when someone's a bit off to you, or they're just not very nice if you haven't met them before, it could have absolutely nothing to do with you. They could just be having a bad day, or have just gotten some bad news. So don't take it personally. If anything, most people end up thinking about themselves more than they're thinking about others. So just see if maybe you can make their day a little bit better and ask them if they're all right. And that could really go a long way and help with a new connection, possibly. Because of your kindness and consideration, they may actually even apologize because they didn't realize how rude they were being, potentially, and open up to you. And that can be a really good base for a new connection. Or if you know someone and you might not be that close to them yet, it can be a really good way to build upon that connection that you already have. Because whether you're networking with someone for the first time or if you've met them a few times, you can always nurture that relationship so it grows into something even more beautiful. And depending on the relationship, it will take different levels of care and input. And if you yourself are having a bad day when the perfect connection comes along, or you meet someone that you had been wanting to meet but didn't think that it was going to be happening, try to just change your mindset as fast as you can. And if that's not possible, just fake it till you make it and try to be positive, because in general, I'd say being negative when talking to people, if they're a new connection or someone that you've met before, isn't a very good impression. And I'd say try and keep the conversation positive and try not to talk down about anybody or your previous jobs, your work, your bosses. One, because it's not a good reflection on you, but two, they could know them and that could get you in a really sticky situation. So try to avoid it and just say nice things, even if you don't think them. Having said that, don't be fake, be as genuine as possible, but try and keep the conversation positive. So since we're talking about in-person networking to start with, and things are opening back up as the pandemic hopefully closes down, I don't know what kind of events you might be going to or what your area, career, profession is in, but if you can try and express yourself in a fun way that makes people excited to talk to you, then that's going to be really great for any type of event. And talking with someone that you might not think would be useful could spark a new interest of yours and lead to some fun new memories. So don't write anybody off. Every connection can be valuable. Speaking of memories, remembering who you've talked to and what you talked about is really important. So if you're in a bind and you have your phone, just quickly make a little voice note or type in a note on your phone, and that will help you remember. A couple things I like to do is you can always have them spell their name in your phone, which is really great if you want to find them on LinkedIn. You can write down what they were wearing, a key piece of conversation or something memorable that you spoke of, or even just a feature of them that you remember, like their accent or their hair or their job or whatever. Speaking of, I have this business card notebook. You could think are old-fashioned depending on your age range, but I think they still have a very valuable place to play in today's world and career, especially with the different groups that you might be networking with. And you can make your business cards creative and bold and as fun as you want. One thing I like to do is organize them by date and alphabet, and an easy way to remember who you're talking to, especially at a networking event where you might be getting a lot of business cards, is to just write down something specific about them, the date of the event, and then you can organize these all when you get home and add them on social media or LinkedIn or an email, whatever. So for example, I have this person who is actually a really, really lovely lady, and I have the event that I met her at, East Kent Conservation, tonic event, and then curly hair, bubbly American. Just memorable features and what we spoke about and where we met, so that when I do add her online, I can say, hello, we met on this date at this event, and it was really lovely, and we spoke about this. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. So that's one way. But yeah, business cards are also great for spelling because some people's names can be a little bit challenging, and rather than have them repeated a bunch of times, if you can just get a business card from them, that can save you a headache and any unpleasantries in the conversation. Also, if you can't remember their name or you're too polite to ask them to repeat it more than twice, you can always just have them put their details in your phone and spell it out that way. I've made several business cards over the years. Some have been more creative, so this is one of my project model designs, and then my name, and then just some information on the back. I had this one for a specific design project that I did. It was a creative challenge, and then yeah, name on the back and a little bit about the details of the competition, and then one for my previous practice that I worked at. So that's just a couple of the business cards that I've had over the years. Very interesting. I've had a couple people say, you know, the thickness of the card is really important to them, the texture, so you can keep that in mind and do what you want with it. Grab a coffee. Whether you met in person and want to continue that connection offline, or you met online and want to meet in person for the first time, grabbing a coffee can be a great way to get that connection started. And if you don't like coffee, that's okay. Most coffee shops also have tea, soda, water, and juice, so you can get what you want. I try to avoid eating when it comes to networking events because then my hands are free for hand body language as well as handshakes, if those are still going to be a thing post-pandemic. Might just be some of this elbow action, I don't know. Also, so my teeth stay clean and I don't need to quickly check in a mirror if I don't have anything green in my teeth, or so my mouth isn't full. If the right person comes around, I just always want to be on my toes and be ready. I haven't been to an official networking event in a few years, or I don't know, everything pre-pandemic just feels like a really long time ago. But I haven't gone really hard with networking where I've had everything ready to go and I'm purely just trying to get to know people and add them online. But sometimes it can just be more casual than that. You don't need to be like a networking monster or whatever. And I used to be really nervous about networking events. So one of the things that I did to convince myself that it was actually really, really fun was that everyone was way more afraid to talk to me than I was to talk to them. So I should just try and make them feel comfortable. And B, I tried to treat getting business cards like trick-or-treating, which is something I really used to enjoy when I was a kid. Like a business card would be like an extra piece of candy. So that would be my way of making it a little bit more fun. I'll be like, how many pieces of candy did I get by the end of the day? That's just one way that I tried to convince myself that it was fun. But yeah, in general, people are afraid to talk to you, even if they're at the top of their game, top of their field. They still want like a genuine, chill conversation. So if you can make that happen and make them feel comfortable, then you should be pretty solid. Another thing about networking over food, which can be fine if you're networking over a meal, but then there's sometimes dietary requirements, which can get a bit dicey. It can be a more relaxed setting if you're having a meal meal and discussing over some food or drinks or whatever. For food and for coffee, you can always take sips if there's lulls in the conversation before you can come up with something else to say. That could be a good thing as well, having like props ready. Avoid awkward pauses. The best way to avoid awkward pauses is to have an arsenal of interesting, thought-provoking questions ready to ask the person across from you. I have a whole series of really random questions that I can ask people to get to know them a little bit better, as well as kind of find out a little bit more about their spirit and their attitude and just who they are as a person without being too invasive. I think it's generally pretty fun. So if you can have some of those questions ready to go in case there's any lulls in conversation, it can lead down a completely different road that you didn't think that the conversation would go. So it can be pretty fun and also kind of random, but why not? So how you turn an in-person networking experience to an online one can depend on your career, age, and social media platforms that you have. Whichever common platform you can find that will work for both of you is the one to go with, whether that's email or Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. Find it and make it work. If you're well versed in several social media platforms, see what you can do to bridge the gap between the both of you, and then you can network with people of all ages and technological abilities. Make sure you follow up after the interaction. It can just be saying, "It was really lovely to meet you. I look forward to discussing more in the future," or whatever the conversation led to. If it was a very brief interaction, you can add them online, just remind them of when you met, who you are, something memorable, like I said before with the business cards, and then hopefully they will add you and it can start a beautiful new friendship. I'd say you'd want to add them online within the month. I wouldn't go too far beyond that because memories can get stretched and they might have already forgotten. So it's best to contact them while it's fresh in their minds. Keep the connection alive. This is one of the easiest ways to keep a connection alive. All you gotta do is write them just once a year around New Year's, anytime between the beginning of December and the end of January. So it gives you 2 months to write one quick message just to say something along the lines of, "I hope you had a great year and Happy New Year's, all the best in the next year." Or "Best wishes, prosperity to your family, I hope you are happy and healthy, I hope business is going well," whatever. New Year's is the perfect time to write people just to let them know that you still exist and you are still happy to be in contact with them without any strings attached or you wanting anything from them, just wishing them the best. It's a really nice way to just say, "Hey, hope you're good. I'm still here if you need something." If you see a post that they might have shared, just like it, comment on it, and show your support for their work and their ambitions, and it will go a long way. And there does not need to be a hidden agenda for you or for them when you're building your network. Some connections might be directly related to your goals, ambitions, and work, while others probably not, but that doesn't mean they're not useful and they're not worth talking to. I say talking to anyone can bring value to your life and give you a fresh perspective on something that you might not have thought of. Also, when you're talking to people online or in general when you're posting anything on social media, just know that once you've posted it, it's out there. Anything you put online, just assume it will be out there forever. From a young age, I'd say be thoughtful about what you're putting on the internet. Be careful, be protective of your safety and security. Networking can be more dangerous online if you don't actually know the person. They could be someone completely different than who they say they are, catfishing. So be safe, be careful, and if something seems far too good to be true or someone seems far too good to be true, just be wary that they are and be safe. That's really important, especially for the younger audience who might be watching. Look after yourself and be careful. Also, in terms of social media, if you are max networking, as in you're sending a lot of messages to a lot of people at once and you just want to do all that in bulk, that's great. But some social media platforms will have a maximum number of messages that you can send to certain people, especially if the messages are very similar. The app or platform might think that you're a bot. Your profile could be deleted or taken offline. So be careful, just do a little research, make sure if you are going to bulk network like a badass, you do it, but you do it carefully so that the app doesn't think you are a bot. Also, try and tailor your messages to the connection that you're looking at. I know it can be slightly more time consuming, but very worthwhile. Just as sending a job application or a university application, you would want to tailor it for that job or university. Same thing goes with a person. What drew you to them? Why do you think they're interesting? Why do you want to work with them? What kind of value could you give them? Etc., etc. Be specific and try and tailor it. I think the best kind of relationships are mutually beneficial or symbiotic relationships where you both benefit in some way. If you're getting a lot more than the other person is, I think it's more of a one-sided connection. You should see what you can do for them too. It doesn't just have to be one way. Of course, there's people that support you and they're very happy to do that, and just show them that you are thankful for their support if it is a more one-sided relationship. For example, anyone who wants to help support me and my passions and ambitions, you can like this video and subscribe to the channel. That would show me that you're supporting all the things that I'm doing, and it's very appreciated and does not go unnoticed. So thank you in advance if you do that. That's one way you can support me. I will just try and keep supporting you guys by putting more content out there. Thank you to those who stuck around for the do's and don'ts at the end. I'm glad you didn't forget, or if any of you guys just skipped ahead from the beginning, that's cool too. How you doing? This comes to you from the American Psychological Association, so you guys can just read through this list, but I thought it'd be good just to have a couple summary points besides all of the other advice that I had from more of my personal experience. Let's start with the don'ts. Don't complain about your job or your coworkers. Don't post when you're supposed to be working, because your job might see it. Don't make fun of your boss or team. It could be back to them, also it's just rude. Don't make fun of clients or donors, ever. Really bad form. Don't do it. Don't make fun of a job or a job offer. That could be really valuable to someone else and could be quite condescending. So just try not to do it, especially not in public. If you manage your company's social media page, be very careful not to post anything that you think is supposed to be on your social media page. Be very wary of posting your political or religious opinions on your social media platforms. Don't assume that your social media platforms are clean and professional. They can always do with a once-over or a fresh pair of eyes from someone else. Try not to lie or exaggerate who you are on social media, especially on LinkedIn. If you can be honest about your appearance and your experience, that's the best way to go. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You are who you are, and that's great. You know, it takes experience to get experience, and if you don't have it, that's okay. Just be honest. And don't erase everything online just because you've panicked. Just go through it, have a friend or another coworker look through and see if there's anything taboo or dodgy that they might think you should get rid of. These are just a couple warnings. It does depend on your profession and your career ambitions. Especially if you want to go into politics, I'd be extra careful from a very early age what you have online and what kind of information is taken from you. It'll come out. And now the do's. These do's are a couple tips from Vault. Thanks. Do adjust your communication style. So depending on who you're talking to, you can adjust the tone, the volume, the speed in which you're talking, and even the vocabulary. So adjust it so that you fit with who you're talking to and you can be a chameleon in any situation. Do give as much as you get. Like I said, it's better to have a mutual beneficial relationship, so it's a two-way street, and make sure that you're giving as much as you're receiving from the relationship. Do your research. If you know who you're going to be talking to, or you know what kind of industry you're going to be networking with in advance, make sure you do your research and have some interesting topics to discuss. I mean, we have the internet for goodness sakes, and it only takes 10 minutes to do some hardcore research. If you haven't already seen my interview video on how to interview well, I do like to do a little bit of background research on my interviewers and see what I might be able to do to impress them in the situation, because interviews are next level forms of networking. Do be pleasant and polite and try and be as respectful as possible, because you don't know what might offend someone. Remember that networking can happen when you least expect it in any group, and it doesn't have to just be career related, so be prepared, especially if you're someone like me and you work in multiple professions. I really never know who I might come into contact with who's going to be a useful connection. So I try and be as upbeat and positive as possible whenever I'm outside of the house, and even when I am in the house and I'm streaming. That way, if I meet someone new, then it's off to a good start. And there are so many more do's and don'ts and things that I could tell you, but let's keep this video short and wrap it up. As I said before, if you like this video, then hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe. You can support my goals by doing that, and it's very appreciated. Also, comment down below if you have subscribed so I can thank you personally and welcome you to the family. Watch the next video for some more tips. As always, be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, and have a great day. And good luck networking. You got this. I know you do.